Generations Bank has been serving the financial needs of the Finger Lakes region since 1870. Generations combines the best of modern banking with dedication to the local community. Visit them at mygenbank.com. Generations Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com. I am Paul Russo. As always, I have Jim Sinicropi and I have Kyle Evans here with me in studio recapping the Buffalo Bills' huge Week 2 dominating victory over the Miami Dolphins. We'll then preview Week 3 home matchup, Monday Night Football against the Jacksonville Jaguars in 1 week's time. But first, have to take a quick moment here and recognize Perfect Pear Eatery here in Seneca Falls. Quality carryout cuisine, everything made fresh in-house, smoked meats, cheesecakes, and marshmallows. You can check out their unique menu of comforting creations and take the family out, lunch, dinner, hell, even coworkers for lunch even, stuff like that.
And catering.
Catering as well. You can order online, perfectpaireatery.com, or call them at 315-712-4004. Look for the Yellow Door at 64 West Baird Street. Got some specials this week.
They have specials this week, Paul?
They do. Wednesday, sausage and mushroom Alfredo over fresh spaghetti. Sounds pretty tempting to me for $20. Friday, blackened tuna over a rice pilaf with garlic cream sauce for $24.
That's kind of what happened to the Dolphins this week.
Well,
Blackened tuna.
I think Bills fans would enjoy this one a little bit better on Friday night, even over the victory. And then Saturday, roasted prime rib, mashed potato, Yorkshire pudding, and honey carrots. That's going off at a market price. So make sure you stop down to them, 64 West Baird Street. Look for the Yellow Door and check them out. Great stuff down there. So
Absolutely.
let's jump in here, boys. This was, simply put, domination for the most part. Like I said last week, I have to eat crow. I thought the Bills were going to lose. I thought I'd be coming in here and leading off on today with me going, well, Josh Allen finally gets another, one more loss to the Dolphins on his record and blah, blah, blah. But Kyle, simply put, not the case.
And the wild part is Josh Allen didn't do a whole lot.
That's true.
It was the James Cook show, 3 first-half touchdowns. I mean, Josh did throw him one, but it wasn't like a deep pass really or anything. And then the defense. The defense is what needs to be talked about in this game. Tyreek Hill, 3 catches for 24 yards. Didn't even really see him much out there. Jalen Waddle had 4 for 41. I mean, for his speed and for both of their speed to have just that number, it's very impressive of what the Bills secondary did with a bunch of names that nobody knows. I mean, even the broadcasters were talking. Balin Spector came in. He's a 7th-round pick. Dorian Williams, 3rd-round pick, both making plays. And what I noticed, the Bills were just way more physical. The Dolphins just didn't have an answer. And when Tua did get hurt, the game was already out of reach anyway.
Right.
So when Tua was in there, they weren't doing anything. It was just a complete domination and great win for the Bills.
So is it like, as far as the defense goes, is it just like the Bills seem to have the Dolphins scheme-wise? The coaching staff comes up with a good game plan. Obviously, own the Dolphins. Are we going to come back Monday night against Jacksonville and see a repeat performance of a dominant defensive performance?
Well, everyone thought that Jordan Poyer, now being a Dolphin, would help them a lot on defense, knowing Josh Allen's plays and what the Bills do on offense. And that didn't really work out too well. And in fact, James Cook burned Jordan Poyer to the outside for one of his 49-yard touchdowns.
Poyer was getting burned left and right.
Well, yeah, you have a point. But remember, we kind of did talk about that Cardinals game. They kind of did shut it down in the second half.
Right.
So you take that second half plus this performance, I'm pretty encouraged from what I'm seeing, but you're right. It's only 2 weeks.
And the Cardinals' offense is legit. I mean,
48?
Yeah, they lit them up yesterday against the Rams. And so that also shows me that the Bills' second-half performance against the Cardinals is something to be excited about. Defensively, we all knew they were going to have great offense. Actually, I have more concerns about the offense than I do the defense after this game. Not really concerns. They put up 31 points, but I guess if you own any of these Bills in fantasy football, statistically, Josh Allen didn't have a very good game, and nobody did except
Only
for
19
Cook.
passing attempts, though.
Right,
Again,
which is a weird thing.
Yep.
But they killed him.
Well, and also too, only that number, to me anyway, how much is that more indicative on the fact that they were just on them early and you might
Yeah.
kind of go into a semi-cruise control type situation?
Hey, look, the leading receiver was Shakir with 54 yards. Dalton Kincaid had 4 catches. Curtis Samuel, 1 catch for 3 yards. Valdez-Scantling, 0. Keon Coleman, 0. Mac Hollins, 0. So, there really wasn't, for a team that scored 31 points, there wasn't a lot of offensive fireworks in the box score.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at their top 4 receivers were really the only guys with plus yardage receiving-wise. Ty Johnson had 1 for 33. It was a big reception, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I think the other one, why am I drawing a blank? It's not good. The rookie running back. I'm struggling all of a sudden. He had 1 reception for negative yardage.
Ray Davis?
Yeah, Ray Davis. He was the only other person who even had a catch outside of the guys we really mentioned. So,
it's also time of possession, too.
Yeah.
The Dolphins had the ball for 36 minutes because the Bills were taking it away and either scoring quick
Right.
or like the pick six, they get the ball and score immediately and back to the Dolphins.
yeah.
So I think time of possession mattered, and that's why I'm not really looking into much to the offensive numbers because they put up 31 with, look, you mentioned 2 guys had 0 catches.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was just impressed overall with especially the defense. I mean, you can't ask for much more than what they did. I mean, look at the other teams that have played the Dolphins recently. They get 8 up. Tyreek Hill had an 80-yard touchdown against Jacksonville.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if you have concerns about offense, I think that discussion needs to be had maybe after next week when we see what happens against Jacksonville, who we'll get to it here more in a little bit. I don't know what their deal is. I didn't expect them to be looking like the way they have been the first 2 weeks of the year, but who knows?
Everything can change on a dime in the NFL.
Yeah.
Every week's a little different, but through 2 weeks, you got to feel pretty good about the Bills. Preseason, we were concerned about the defense. It seems to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Offense you should have no concerns about the offense. Other than, like I say, if you're Keon Coleman, man, wouldn't it have been nice to catch a couple balls in a 31-point win, but he had 0 receptions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think too, to a certain degree, he was targeted. It's not like, Josh didn't look his way. So,
1 target?
Yeah, a lot of guys only had 1 target because he barely threw.
Yeah.
Shakir had 5 targets, which led the entire team.
yeah. But, I mean, the star of the night, on offense, without saying, as we've said, James Cook, 11 carries, 78 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 17 yards and a touchdown. If you didn't know about James Cook before, if you aren't a Bills fan, you should now, officially. Just an outstanding performance from him. And Kyle, you mentioned here on defense, guys that stepped up that we haven't heard before. I mean, I don't know how many people probably heard of Jamarcus Ingram before, but 2 interceptions with the pick 6. I mean, simply put, he ball hawked all night. Christian Benford also had the other interception with 7 tackles. And this is all coming also from a team that, on defense, that, they were able to flush Tua, but they didn't do a ton of pressure. They only had 2 sacks. Von Miller and Ed Oliver had the 2 sacks on the night. So down, I guess, team-wise from week 1, but, our concerns, like you said, Jim, preseason were on the defense, and going through week 2 now, at least on the field-wise, we'll get to one other thing here in a minute with them that we do probably have some concern about, but on the field product-wise, it's hard to really pinpoint maybe exactly what's going on here that would make us have a really cause for concern with them.
Yeah, and another thing is they were super disciplined. Believe it or not, they only had 1 penalty, and that was a Spencer Brown false start in the first quarter. Very disciplined team, well coached, very prepared. It was just such a great win. It's almost hard to believe that the offense did what it did, which wasn't a whole lot, especially from through the air, and they still did what they did here. It's incredible.
And they get a whole 10 days off before they play again, 10, 11 days.
Yeah, they had 11 total days. So they should be well rested. They're at home for a Monday night game, prime time, which they do really well in.
Yeah.
So,
and then the schedule gets a lot tougher.
Yeah.
But one game clear in the division right now of everybody else, and the Dolphins without Tua don't look like they're going to be much of a threat. The Patriots, obviously, nobody thought that they were going to compete in this division, so now it's just the Jets.
And they didn't really look that impressive.
They haven't looked great this season, and and with old Aaron Rodgers in there, how is he going to last through the full season?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be just like a cakewalk for the Bills in the AFC East, where we were heading into this thinking this might be the toughest division, and for them to win in the past few years.
And I mean, I know the way the schedule on paper looks, but I'm feeling a lot more better about, you want to go a little bit further down the line. I'm feeling a lot more better about that Sunday night game at Baltimore than I did 2 weeks ago, for example.
Because they lost to the Raiders.
Yeah,
They just haven't. They haven't.
10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, they. My concerns about them are coming true, at least in the grand scheme of it on the year for them. So I mean, it's just one of those things. And yeah, then you get Houston, who at least through 2 weeks has looked like everything that we thought they were probably going to be. Then you get the Jets, and then go a little bit further.
So if you had to predict the Final Four in the AFC East or the AFC Conference now, after seeing 2 weeks, I mean, who would it be? Houston, Buffalo, Kansas City, and who's the fourth?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
We were looking like being like the Bills kind of on the outside looking in at the elite of the AFC maybe. But now it looks like they're very much entrenched as one of the favorites.
I mean, if you want to do it from the football perspective, technically Pittsburgh, I guess, because they're 2-0, but it's
Nobody believes that.
right.
They'll be a wild card, if anything.
Yeah.
they've scored 31 points in 2 games.
One touchdown,
One
I think?
touchdown. Every other point's been via the field goal.
There's nothing wrong with scoring only field goals, all right?
Guess who do they face? So they face Denver, and who was week 1? I forgot.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, most overrated 2-0 team of all time.
Maybe. Look to bet against them next week. I don't know who they got in week 3, but
Maybe the Chargers, because they played the Panthers, and I forgot who they got week 1.
Chargers
I think
had the Raiders.
Baltimore is legit. Look, I think Baltimore will be fine. I think they'll be what we thought they would be by the end of the year, and be that fourth team vying for a spot in the AFC Championship game and Super Bowl.
And Cincinnati does this every year. They've started off 0-2, I think I read last night, 3rd straight year.
Yeah, and here we go again. It was pass interference
Yeah.
in that
Got there
last
early.
call, but you think you got them beat in Kansas City. Cincinnati really has their number. Let's face it. And then it was a pass interference call, so you can't say the refs gave it to them. But they're down to their last down, and if they don't convert, they're going to lose. And pass interference,
4th and 16.
right? And then in field goal range.
Yeah.
So it's like hard to believe how that happens over and over again. But it's not like the refs gave it to them. It was clear pass interference.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right, let's get back. I want to talk a little bit more about that defense. Your leading tacklers, we had 3 of them tied. DeMar Hamlin, Byron Spector, and Dorian Williams, just like we all expected, as we alluded to earlier.
Hamlin.
Yeah, I mean, stepped up when he needed to step up. It's one of those things. It's kind of remarkable. You see this next man up mentality in kind of a way here with Buffalo, and they're all performing well and doing well. However, the one thing I did want to bring up, we had more injury issues pop up on the defense. Namely, this time, Terrell Bernard gets dinged. Kyle, looking like a little bit of an extended period of time probably without Bernard, right?
Yeah, strained pectoral muscle, probably a month, although they said it could be 3 games, which is why hasn't been put on IR yet, but IR obviously means a minimum of 4. And yeah, it's the same injury as Matt Milano had. It's just this is a strain, and his was a tear.
Right.
So yeah, both their starting middle linebackers are out. That's why Dorian Williams and Balin Spector were in. But as I said earlier, they did a incredible job considering where they were drafted. A lot of people didn't have high hopes on them, and they still went out and played really well against explosive Miami offense.
Yeah, and Bernard's kind of become one of those guys who, over the past couple of years, has really turned into one of these defensive leaders for the Bills. And at least probably that part you're going to miss maybe a little bit, but maybe this is a spot where you see maybe a Benford take a bigger role in a way in terms of vocal leadership on the field or something like that. So,
What about AJ Epinenza?
Yeah,
That's true.
played really well too.
Yeah, it's another opportunity for him to,
Yeah.
and every time he's had an opportunity or been called upon, he's been solid.
Yeah, Taylor Rapp, Russell Douglas, they were also all over the field making plays. And again, they also don't have Taron Johnson still. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of injuries, and they're just getting by with what they have and just finding ways. But we'll see if this continues to carry, as they start playing some more tough teams here.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting because I think when they were kind of dealing with this issue last year on defense with the injuries, we didn't have all that much faith in the world, and for them to kind of now, I guess in a weird, sad way, do it back-to-back years where everybody's kind of stepping up and handling business. It's a pretty good, I think, indicator of the type of players that they do have and the culture within that team as it stands right now. All right, let's jump in here a little bit with our Week 3 matchup, Monday Night Football, Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, it's a little bit of a different time because this is one of, I think it's 2 weeks this year that they're doing it, 2 or 3 weeks of 2 Monday night games. So the Bills game kicks off at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. Looking like one great day in Orchard Park if you want to make a full day of it. Mix of sun and clouds all day. Light breeze, high of 76, very low chance of precipitation. Bills currently sit at 5.5-point
That
favorites.
can change with the weather in
Yeah,
7 days.
that's
but
true.
Yeah, it's and then you got the Commanders at the Bengals at 8:15 kick.
That's right.
Yeah, Bills are 6-point favorites.
Yeah.
I think that's an accurate number.
Yeah, as it stands right now, Jaguars, as we mentioned, not looking all that great, 0-2 to start the year. Trevor Lawrence, 26 of 51, 382 yards, and only 1 touchdown.
And 8 sacks.
Crazy. Yeah.
They've been sacked. That means the offensive line has not been good, and the Bills' defensive line, that should be like a key point all week. We got to get pressure on them.
Travis Etienne, their leading rusher on the ground, 25 carries, 96 yards, and 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks for him. And then their leading receiver, Brian Thomas Jr.,
Yeah, the rookie.
6 receptions, 141 yards, and 1 touchdown. So,
Christian Kirk got blanked yesterday.
yeah. So, don't know what's going on in Jacksonville, like I kind of said off the top. Certainly not what I expected them to be. So we've been saying kind of hard to really also grade exactly through only 2 games in the NFL.
They regressed after 2 years ago making that run in the playoffs. Yeah, they've regressed.
But it's a good point because last year they were a pretty, for the most part, pedestrian team. Didn't really wow you, didn't really put you down in any way, but at least to open the year, perhaps that trend is accurate with them to carry out through the year. Yeah, I think this is a pretty big emphasis type week, Kyle. I think you brought up a really good point, right? Focus probably on a lot of pressures, force Trevor, frankly, to make plays as it stands right now. He hasn't done a ton of that this year.
Yeah, Gabe Davis hasn't really been around
Right.
as we know from Buffalo. I mean, he had 7 targets, 3 catches. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not impressed with this Jacksonville team either. But ETN can just break off runs at any point, and he should have had a touchdown against Miami, and he fumbled at the goal line. Right. So that game probably would have been a win, and things would have looked totally different.
Too. Yeah.
But yeah, they gotta come away with a win here on Monday Night Football.
Their back is against the wall. You can't start out 0-3 in the NFL. And so I think we're going to see the best version of Jacksonville on Monday night. But counter that with the Bills' performance in primetime games and the momentum they got rolling. And nice thing about the Bills winning the way they did against the Dolphins is if you're preparing for them as Jacksonville, I think the Bills are going to come out with a totally different look on Monday night. Like, you might see Keon Coleman get 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. You might see a little less. Well, I don't know. I don't know if they'll run the ball less because it seems like they're going to be committed to the run this year. But I think Josh Allen's going to end up with way more passing yards than he did against Miami, and way more passing attempts. I just think it's going to be a different box score at the end of the Jacksonville game than after Miami. So it makes it difficult to prepare for, I think, if you're Jacksonville. because you're going to see something different on the field Monday than you see on tape against from the Thursday night game against the Dolphins.
And that's also a good point, right? I mentioned actually the box score is a really good indicator of this, right? 7-7 through 1 against Miami for the Bills, then 17-3 in the second quarter, 17-0 in the third quarter, 0-0 in the fourth. And as we know, we saw, backups get opportunities for the Bills as the game wore on and stuff like that. So I'll do an adage from the college football side of things, right? Some of these early games, you see big scores and stuff like that, and you kind of get tape on things, right? And you can only look at so much because by the time you get to the fourth quarter on a lot of those games, right? Mm-hmm. You got redshirt freshmen in and stuff like that, where it's just like they're just getting playing time for the sake of you don't want your starters getting hurt and stuff like that. So, it's a different ball game. We've seen obviously Jacksonville with all their guys in pretty much the whole time for the Bills. It's nice. I think an underrated part of this, and Kyle, you brought up one time, but it's not a true bye week or anything like that, right? But it's like that extended period, Jim, you brought up too, right? Where it's 10, 11 days off. Also, for some of your starters, you're able to give them extra time off in the game that they didn't even have to be in for. A well-rested team, extended period, a big night. It might just be a really good spot for the Bills here. I kind of feel that way.
As long as they don't come out a little rusty.
That's true. That's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, I do think they have to start passing the ball a little more. But again, they were up 31-10 early in the third quarter.
What are they gonna do?
I mean, they're going to run the next 20 minutes of game when they get the ball. So I think when they are going to throw the ball, they're going to be just fine, and Keon Coleman's going to get his catches. I don't know about Scantling. He hasn't even been on the field that much.
No, he had a chance and dropped one. 2 weeks, was it?
Week 1.
Yeah.
And he did have an opportunity in the Miami game, and I think Josh either just overthrew him or he just didn't get there. So I don't know what they're going to really do with him. I don't know how much he's going to play, or I don't know. It's just weird how they.
One of those things where you didn't see him too much, and then all of a sudden, like in week 7, he'll have a 2-touchdown game, and then we won't see him again for another 4 or 5 weeks, and then he'll have another 2-touchdown game.
Maybe he's just the hostage they took from Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could use him now.
Yeah.
Where's Travis Kelce?
Wow.
Where's their passing offense?
Yeah.
Pacheco's hurt.
I was about to say.
Pacheco hurt.
Rashid should be suspended for his multi-car wreck in the summer where he injured.
He won't be, though.
When he injured people and then got arrested at the bar a month later. But the NFL says they're not going to suspend him just yet. They're lucky.
Yeah, without him, they're really because Worthy had a great week 1, and he didn't look so great yesterday.
Rookie mistakes.
Looks undersized. He's obviously super fast, but other than speed, he doesn't bring a lot to the table, in my opinion.
Yeah, if there is a one big positive too, it's Cincinnati's defense. Their secondary is pretty damn good. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It will be interesting. It's one of those things where we talked about it too before week 1, where it was just like we kind of knew who the main guys for the Bills were going to be on offense anyway in that sense. And MVS, I don't think we brought up really once outside of the fact that they just brought him in as a off-season signing, so.
But if Stefon Diggs was still on this team and he had the line that Keon Coleman had on this week, we would be talking about that.
He would be mad.
He would be talking about that too. So I don't know. Are the Bills going to have a true number 1 guy this year? Because I was hoping it would be Keon Coleman, and maybe it will be, but.
Yeah, I mean, through the first couple of weeks, it's been Shakir, who we thought would be in the mix for it anyway. I kind of leaned on the fact I thought was going to probably actually be like Dalton Kincaid, who might be that guy, and it hasn't fully been that yet either. So, it's tough. I always say in football, you gotta have that guy you can kind of go to in a sense, and maybe at least for the first few weeks here, the Bills are just kind of maybe doing it by committee in a sense, and. Who knows?
Hasn't been the Curtis Samuel show after that big off-season acquisition of Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, 1 catch for 3 yards.
Yeah.
No, but I do think it'll change. Shakir probably will get a lot of times, he'll lead the team in receptions and stuff. But I think the yards will change here and there. I mean, we're only 2 weeks in, and somebody's going to get a big catch and run or something that's going to change one game. And Dalton Kincaid will, we saw him get used even more in this game than week 1.
He'll be fine, solid tight end. As solid as probably any tight end in the league.
And Mac Hollins was nowhere to be found, but then in week 1 he was. See what I mean? I think it's just going to change week to week, which is fine because Josh can spread it around. He doesn't have to worry about one guy.
Yeah, I think that was a big issue, as we knew kind of last year, as the offense at least stumbled out of the gates with even Ken Dorsey. So
Only thing that can stop the Bills right now is a Josh Allen injury.
Yeah, that would be brutal. Mitch Trubisky, who looked awful in preseason.
there was a lot more, I'll go with discussion around that left hand of Allen's this past week. I don't know. It didn't seem, again, it's hard to really gauge because it's not like they really were.
Oh, he was handing it off.
Yeah, it's not like they were
Perfectly fine.
really in a forced position to do anything, but there was no really worry around it, I think, in the game sense of it. So it will be interesting to see this week how that progresses. Somebody called it like a Mario Kart like glove in a way. Like I was kind of chuckling at that. It reminded me, I'd say, more of like a hockey, like like the hockey gloves or even like lacrosse gloves in a way. But even then, I was like, I don't know fully about that.
I bet you'll feel a lot better with 10 days off
Yeah. Oh yeah.
to heal that. I think hopefully we weren't anything on there on Monday night.
Right. And I'm guessing it was probably a film only type weekend for the players anyway. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, let's jump into our outright predictions then for this game, gentlemen. So I was wrong last week. I don't think I'm going to be wrong this week. I think it's a big Bills win once again. I'm going to go 31-16 over Jacksonville on Monday night.
I'm going to go 27-23. It'll be close.
Ooh.
I have a feeling one of those games that, you're waiting for the Bills to break it open, but they just can't. Maybe it's not their best offensive or defensive game, but they are the better team and they will prevail in the end. I think that Jacksonville put up some points. I'm similar to Kyle. I'm going to say 34-28.
Okay. How about it?
So
So
week 1 score. Remember they beat Arizona, wasn't it 34-28?
Was it? Well, all right.
All
Back
right.
at you. 34-28
all right.
again.
I think that also, let me double check this here. That would also all put us taking actually the over in this game as well, technically.
Yeah, it's at 46.
46.5.
Yeah, that seems a little low. Although it's probably a part of a byproduct of the Bills, establishing the run game so well the first couple weeks. And Jacksonville, most of their success has come on the ground, so clock should keep moving. But in the NFL, just when you think you have it figured out, the opposite happens.
It's true. That is true. Quick programming note for next week's podcast, because it's Monday night. We won't be with you on Monday next week. It will be Tuesday next week. Same time, though, 10 a.m. when we'll go live recapping the game from Monday Night
It's a
Football.
long time to wait to talk about Thursday night's game
Yeah.
this week. Now, next week, we'll be ready to go. We'll be fresh on our minds.
Love it.
I got one more thing before we go. So I was off by one game for our betting pod. It's now 43 straight games without losing by more than 6 points. And I should also mention that's regular season, because that one playoff game they lost 27-17 to Cincinnati.
All right.
So this is regular season only, but if you took that one playoff game, which was a 10-point difference, it could be even more. That's how incredible they've been. Even in playoff games, they're not getting blown out.
Hey, look, it was we had a golf thing up at Turning Stone on Friday that we spent the night Thursday. We actually watched the Bills game from the Turning Stone Steakhouse. We had our own room. But the whole ride up, I was telling the guys, look, this is a lock of the year. I was rattling off all those stats about the Bills against the Dolphins, about the Bills not losing by more than 6. And so what I actually did was I parlayed the Bills. I moved the line to 6.5, and then paired that with all my picks from Sunday, my single game picks. So now instead of me betting single games at minus 110, I was betting them at plus 140. And worked out pretty good. Obviously, needed the Bills to cover, and then we were talking about, well, when it looks so good, that's when you know you're in trouble. But it looked good, and it was good, and it was the biggest, easiest money you could ever make in betting, was betting
The minute
Bill's side Thursday night.
Yeah, the minute for me that I knew I was in trouble with my pick was I saw the line on Wednesday go from 1.5 to 2.5, and I was like, I am screwed for my pick. So
McDermott 14-2 against Miami now since 2017. Mike McDaniel 1-5 against Buffalo since becoming head coach, and that one win was 21-19 in Miami when it was very hot.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a nightmare for Dolphins fans, and their season's on the brink now. 2 out, maybe forever.
Somebody brought up a good point. It's like when Tom Brady and the Patriots used to beat up on the Bills all them years. Well, this is kind of how it is now with the Bills on the Dolphins. They've had a lot of blowout wins.
But on the opposite side, the Bills have not looked great against the Jets, who now
The Jets
become
play 'em tough.
right, and they're now the biggest competitor. I mean, for the biggest threat for the AFC title would come from the Jets. So when do we play them?
Monday night, week 6. Week 6.
Not too far away. And we don't play the Patriots until like 2027, I think,
Yeah, week 16
and then week 18.
and week
How do they make
18.
that schedule?
I don't know.
By then, hopefully, New England's far out of it, and the Bills can, play some of their bench players and get the win still. Who knows? That's too far in the future.
Yeah, it's weird how the schedules always are, because then the Bills don't see the Jets until week 17. So it's always crazy.
And they play the Dolphins again in week 9.
Yeah.
Will Tua be back by then? We'll see.
Yeah.
Skylar Thompson is very bad. They might want to find another backup. I know a lot of people are saying Ryan Tannehill's out there. Bring him back in.
He'd be way better than any other option, in my opinion,
Yep.
I have a name.
if he's in shape. Tyrod Taylor?
No. He's the Giants backup? No, Jets backup.
Oh, well, he probably will be called into service at some point.
No. Tom Brady.
Well, he'd be better than he's too old. Look, it's over. Brady's over. He's done. Get used to listening to him babble in the booth.
No, I'm good. I was happy I missed that game yesterday that he was on. So
Brian Hoyer's available. P.J. Walker, Blaine Gabbert,
Ugh.
hey,
C.J. Beathard.
I will not stand for the PJ Walker slander. XFL legend PJ Walker.
Yeah, the Dolphins are in trouble with their quarterback situation. If Tua-
Tannehill's the answer.
Yeah, I do think he would be the best option.
Return. Go out one last high note, right?
And by the way, Tua would still get $124 million if he retires.
Yeah, I'd retire.
Yeah,
cares?
so clearly I guess he's not thinking money, which is crazy because a lot of people do, and he just wants to play. But then I also read the doctor has to medically tell him he can't play for that to be guaranteed. If he just retires on his own without, and they clear him to come back, then it's something. There's some kind of thing in the contract.
Clause? Yeah.
So it's very wordy and specific.
He clearly shouldn't play. I feel bad for
But
him.
why would the doctor clear him with all these concussions? And
Right,
Was
yeah.
it 3 in the last 2 years?
Something like that, yeah.
Isn't,
Yeah, by the time he's 50 years old, he's not going to be able to. This is the dark side of the NFL.
And why is he trying to take a hit in a blowout? Late
Yeah,
in the
he
third
was trying to
quarter.
get that extra yard too. Maybe he shouldn't have even been in the game.
Yeah.
Slide. I will never understand. It's even something
Well,
I've
he was kind of sliding, wasn't he? And then
No, he
just
went
got-
head first.
And of all people, DeMar Hamlin tackles him.
I know.
Oh, I know. What a world, huh?
Yeah, the
Can't
script-
make that up.
What a script that is. What the writers had a lot to write about after the game.
I thought you were doing more of the Hollywood script jokes on that one, not the actual beat writers and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it was just it's an unfortunate sequence. I mean, I was a big Tua guy when he was at Alabama, and you saw some issues there that now have more than crept into his NFL career. But yeah, I mean, I always think about guys like, in all honesty, and I only know this because I love the history of the sport and I love reading into it, but I think of a guy like Jim McMahon who, he's gone through a lot of struggles trying to figure out how to get himself to a point where he's not a burden on his family and stuff like that. It's just one of those things where I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take. said it to a friend of mine over the weekend. Next time he goes down, he might not get back up type thing at this point. It
I'm going to hear him announce his retirement in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, hey, good to be a Bills fan right now. Congratulations to all you Western New York members of the Bills Mafia. It's a good start to the season.
There were a lot of Bills Mafia members down at Watkins Glen yesterday for the race, to the point that even the track DJ played the version of Shout down there. So it's a good time to be a member of Bills Mafia, that's for sure. So we'll get out of here on that note. Appreciate everybody for listening and tuning in. Remember, live portion of this next week, Tuesday at 10 a.m. as opposed to Monday because they're on Monday Night Football. So Tuesday, 10 a.m. if you're a live watcher. And if you catch up anytime after that, that's when we'll be getting the podcast uploaded as well. You can find Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com, the FL1 YouTube channel, and all other major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Amazon Music. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk again next week. Let's go, Buffalo.